Ever wonder what it's really like to go behind the scenes at the Star-Studded Costume Institute Ball? What goes on once you get past that mob of flashing cameras and find yourself inside the inner sanctum? Well, WSJ's Society reporter Marshall Heyman has attended several Met balls, including last night's, and he's here with the inside skinny. Marshall, thanks so much for being here.
Of course, my problem.
Did you have a ball last night?
Of course. How can you not have fun at a party like that?
How did last night's event stack up to the others that you've been to?
As far as I understand it, and it didn't totally seem that way to me, but it was much smaller last night. I mean, it still felt there were a lot of people there, but everyone was talking about how it was more intimate than it had been in the past. And I guess Anna Wintour kind of shortened the invite list, and they reduced a lot of tables.
And it's already so hard to get in.
I guess so, yeah. Yes.
And who gets an invite to this? Because it seems like everyone wants to go. So how does she decide who's in and who's out?
I mean, it's an excellent question. I just think anyone who probably fits in that Vogue orbit, it's interesting. She's really into theater, so there were a lot of theater people there last night, and like Idina Menzel and Neil Patrick Harris, and a lot of the people who are in the Cripple of Inishman and stuff like that. But then you have some tech people like Marissa Meyer from Yahoo, and all the big celebrities. It sort of just depends on the year, obviously.
So for most of us, the closest we'll get is just pictures we see from the red carpet, and that looks incredibly chaotic,
and
wild.
It is, yeah.
Is it the same inside?
Yes and no. I mean, it's a pretty reduced group ultimately. A lot of these celebrities don't usually bring a +1.
Right.
If they do,
are they allowed to bring a +1?
It depends on the person, and it depends on who they're being invited by. So if they're sitting, for instance, at a table with a fashion designer, and the fashion designer is bringing them, and the fashion designer has an extra seat, they might say, I'd like to bring this person. But the way that Vogue locks it down is they're not usually allowed to bring their publicist, and they're not usually allowed to bring their agent or their manager or things like that. So it's usually a pretty controlled group. I've only seen really one celebrity publicist there in the years past.
Do any of the celebrities get a little sloppy? They look so perfect going in. Do they drink? Do they dance? Do they eat? What do they do?
Well, there isn't a lot of dancing at the party. So basically what happens at the party is they walk up the steps, and last year they walked up another set of steps for that punk thing, and that seems in retrospect fairly sadistic to make them walk up 2 flights of stairs. But this time
the theme was punk after all.
Exactly. But this time they walked up the stairs, and then they just there was a huge dress made of about 200,000 roses, and then which some people were sort of trying to pose on at the end of the evening. And then they would make a sharp left, and there the committee who was hosting the event, which was Sarah Jessica Parker, Bradley Cooper, Anna Wintour, and then Jonathan and Lizzie Tisch, would welcome them. And sometimes there'd be a backlog. And then after that you make a right, and then you see part of the exhibit. And then after that, there's sort of a huge room where there's lots of champagne and no snacks, because none of these people eat.
That's what I was wondering.
Exactly, no snacks at all. So and then you go into a big dinner, and of course nobody eats dinner, but it was lobster, and then a vol au vent last night, which nobody touched, and then the baked Alaska, no one touched.
And last question, be honest, is anyone actually talking to anyone else, or are they all straining over shoulders to see who they can see?
There's a lot of chatting. I mean, it's a pretty reduced room, and I do think a lot of these people don't get to see each other on a regular basis. Like I ran into Zooey Deschanel over the weekend at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and she was talking about
how fabulous. You and Zooey are new BFFs.
We're not new BFFs. We're old BFFs. But she was saying that it's so nice to go to this kind of party and just see all her friends and talk to them.
Oh, it's a regular old batch.
But then at the after parties, they seem to get a little sloppy. There was a little,
Oh, good. We'll have you on tomorrow to talk about the after parties.
Problem.
Marshall, thank you so much.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So much fun chatting with you.